Berry Drive. You may have said this, I'm not sure, because you gave a lot of information, so I'm very impressed. I like it so far. I do have a couple questions, though. How many stories are all the buildings?
2 stories.
2 stories, so you have a lower level and then a second level. Is any residential included in the downtown?
So we purposefully didn't include uses in any of the buildings. Really the concept intending to talk about how high the building should be and how large they should be. Really we wanted to keep the door open and see what prospective developers would propose to fit in those scale buildings.
Okay, and the other question I have right now, I may have more, but how many parking spaces total are included in the downtown? That's including the street parking on Main Street, Riverside, North Main, as well as on the development itself. Do you have an idea? And that's, I know there's no parking garage yet. Obviously, that would give you more space, but right now, in the early, I'm just curious.
So what we can do is we can we'll post the exact number on the Q&A on the project website. That way we're not just making something up.
That's perfect. Thank you.
All right, we'll do.
Let me also add on the parcel where the parking is going to be next to the new McDonald's. That is designed so that when we need a parking structure, we go up from there. It's the right base and everything.
Okay, I think good.
Any other questions? Sam?
Sam Elkins, 398 Riverside Avenue. I'm here asking a question mostly for the Bristol Auto Club. How soon do you expect to start doing infrastructure work?
I was in touch with Dave today, and you're going to be good to go, and where you're going to be this summer. You'll be all right.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, you'll be all right. They've already contacted me first thing this morning.
And it looks, I like the plans. I think it's a lot better, no apartments or nothing, and I would rather see you do it the other way. If you don't have to do the apartments. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just want to stress real quick, like on that point and others, again, what we saw today was a vision, and every project's going to be unique, right? Every project has its own requirements, so whether that's building size, building coverage, parking requirements, the whole deal, we're really going to treat every proposal the same. And what that means essentially is that the BDA, the mayor, everyone else works really closely with folks, to invite them to get with our land use people and in front of the appropriate boards. I just want to make sure the public's expectations, we try to stay open-minded on this stuff. From a development perspective, that's invaluable. Every project's unique. We want to use this concept as an invitation and as an inviting sort of way to engage developers, not as like a penalty, right? So whether it's residential, retail, I'm in the business to engage all sorts of different developers. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
And just to add to that, you can see that this is a pretty comprehensive plan, not set in stone, but it's really based on the fact that it was ask, lots of data that's been gone through over the years. It has been vacant for a long time. We are trying to do this right, and that's where the public's input becomes very important. And there's the website, so if people would take note of that. You're talking about 17 acres that are getting broken up with doable, there's nothing where somebody's going to come in and try to do it all. And so it's really a smaller scale, but everything will fit together. So I think you folks did a great job just gathering it all together and putting a vision up there.
So let me just, Tim, will you come up?
Tim Gamache, 1389 Stafford Avenue. First off, I want to say I'm very impressed with the plan. I like all the sidewalks. It does have a pedestrian-friendly feel to it. But I heard the phrase shared parking. Now, the last time we were here, people that were running this operation before you all came along, residential was a big part of the project, and there was some discussion about shared parking, namely during the day when someone would be working, someone would be using their parking space, and when they were coming home from work, they were supposed to be able to just use their parking space. I saw a lot of problems with that, so I'm a little leery about the phrase shared parking. Could you explain to me in what way you plan on using that with this project now, or was that just a...
I don't recall saying shared parking.
I think I mentioned it a little bit. And that was more so, I think, to talk about, particularly as the site, as the city invests in more of the on-street parking, how do we perhaps incorporate that into the sites, that the sites themselves don't need as much parking as they would if they would need to incorporate all of that on the site. If a whole section of the site gets developed by the same developer, and there are many buildings on that site, there's also an opportunity to have shared parking on the same parcel, split between many businesses. As Justin keeps saying, we want to keep things as flexible as possible, but kind of understanding some of the logistical challenges ahead of time and having a plan going forward, because parking is an important part of just about any downtown plan, and making sure that some of those logistical issues are figured out ahead of time, we think would be a logical next step.
Do you think the parking garage is going to be really necessary?
That would be our hope. That would be a definition of a high level of success.
The reason why I asked that question, I don't know, somebody might help me, Mr. Smith might be able to help me with this. The average cost of maintaining a parking space in any parking garage, the lowest number I've heard is $1,400 a year, up to and including $2,200 a year to maintain one parking space.
Well, I think
So
that's,
the idea of a parking garage eventually can get,
Tim,
A
that
little
gentleman right there is
expensive.
our parking consultant.
yeah, it's and one of the reasons why it was shown in the very last phase. The intent is that a parking garage is only a what-if way in the
that's
future.
why I asked if it was necessary.
No, it's not necessary.
Okay.
But obviously with a parking garage, you have the ability to have more development because you're not, and clearly the city's vision is not to make this to be a sea of parking. That's very clear throughout. So
We had that.
yeah, the parking is, parking garage, once again, has flexibility. We laid out that surface parking lot so it could be stacked right up at a later date. So, but you're right, the economic challenges associated with a parking garage are significant.
Thank you. Thank you. Did a nice job, though.
Laura Bartok, 140 Carriage Road. I just had a quick question. I went to the planning meeting on Monday, or planning committee meeting on Monday, and there was a slight difference between the amount that was originally asked by the hospital of 3.65 acres. It changed to 3.72 acres. Is this based on 3.65 for them or 3.72? Does that change things at all?
3.72.
Okay.
There was some calculations that were wrong.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that's what their plan was based on.
It's 3.72.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. John?
Just a comment on a question. I agree, I hope there is a parking garage. Talks of, it should be a success. You also don't take a lot of surface parking and eliminate development costs. And every major city that I've been in has parking garages, so, I mean, they have to be maintained. So if you build them right and maintain them right, they're not overly costly. I have a question about the bicycle, which I think is great, but I think you have to go a little bit further and make the rest of downtown Bristol cycle-friendly, because if you don't do that, people aren't going to ride their bikes across the street, and I ride a lot, so hopefully,
Agreed.
thank you.
Anyone else?
Susan Brush, 193 High Street. Will there be somebody coordinating designs of these buildings from different lots? I mean, you're going to have 2, 3, 4 developers. You don't want, like the red, white, and blue building up on North Main Street, and then, an all-glass building, something that would...
Good question. So there will be, I think the BDA, frankly, at a staff level first, and then up to the downtown committee and eventually our full board, we're going to be looking at those things. To a certain extent, our zoning regulations lay out some sort of guidelines, but we may take it a little further. Again, it's always a balance with the BDA. We want to develop responsibly, right? So we want to be able to be engaging and encourage developers to work with us, but at the same time, we understand what the community is looking for in buildings downtown, so we'll do our best to hopefully...
Because you want some kind of continuity of design through the whole area.
We agree. We agree. Thank you. Anyone else?
Avenue, Calfee, 64 Leslie Court. So within the areas A, B, and C, will they all be zoned uniformly?
They currently are in the BD1 zone, the whole site is. So we intend that that zoning designation would stay. We didn't propose any zoning changes.
And for planning, have they thought about mixed use? For example, could you put in a daycare center next to a bar?
I'll pass that one to Bob Planning.
So a lot of the, I'll just, if you don't mind, if you take a look at the BD1 zone regs, a lot of that is sort of laid out. But again, the BDA would be conscious of those types of issues, and of course, we work really closely with Bob Flanagan, our planner, and the Planning Commission and zoning, so things that we're going to look out for.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I'm really happy that we had some positive feedback here because, you know, we learned a lot from our last attempt. We had a great amount of information that we've shared with our Malone McGrew. And if you look at it, it's really based on flexibility. I heard the term Orlando use, mixed use, things like that. The beauty, I think, a part of this plan is the flexibility in how it's laid out. We could, you know, it's an important part of the process for the future to have this concept of recycling buildings as we go through economic cycles. And there could be big buildings, there could be small buildings, but this plan adds a lot of flexibility for future developers. And I gotta tell you, we try to find flaws in some of this stuff. And the way it's laid out, it can work very nicely. That's it.
Sean Riss, 53 Lancaster Road. I'm happy to see that the results that you got from the survey, the density and the building height is reflected in the final, I don't know if I should call it final plan. And, okay. It says the plan represents the community's vision of what they want for future development. So I'm just wondering, with the bicycle amenities, did you derive that conclusion from the survey, or how did the bicycle path amenities come into play into the final concept?
Sure. So we didn't specifically ask about bike lanes in the survey, but as we went through some of the design process and realized kind of the minimum width of the roadway and kind of being cognizant that we don't want very wide lanes and we need some extra space, we thought that bicycle lanes would be a logical addition without necessarily changing the profile of the road, but just using that space more efficiently.
Okay. All right. With the shared parking and the sidewalks on the lot, would the city be responsible for removing the snow on that, or is that going to be something that the people that develop? I mean, is that public?
That's to be determined.
That's all I want to know. Thanks.
Although, like I said, the main road is going to be the city's road.
Right.
What happens inside of the developments is still, it'll be negotiated as we go.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Let's say no to you.
Andy Adams, 67 Bayberry Drive. So I know programming is key to a very vibrant Greenbelt Lakes downtown. It's getting people downtown because there are people who are working during the day, and you want things to keep them down there after work, as well as bringing people down Monday through Friday, not just on the weekends. So I noticed the public space you have. In the recent development, there was going to be a piazza, and I know that with the development of that cost several millions of dollars of putting it in. My question is, the public space that you have here now, they have the patch across the street, and I know pretty much what the size of that is. What are the sizes of those parklets or those public spaces, the green areas that you have throughout the region? Can you give me an idea of looking at across the street at the patch, what that is right now, how big those spaces are relative to that?
Sure. What we could do is we could identify all of the 6 pedestrian spaces shown in yellow here, and we can provide on the website the dimensions of all those and the square footages.
Okay, so I guess it'd be a question for city. Programming. So when you think of programming and what we can do, I know the farmer's market would be something we want to really grow. That was what we were doing before. Is there an opportunity where you could actually close, like we did for the Flavored Food Fest, close Riverside Avenue from Main Street to North Main Street to actually have more public space for bigger events? Or is that
You
not
mean
an
when you
option?
say close for good? Or-
No, just close for the event.
Yeah, like we do on North Main Street, even when we have the car show, as events come up, we go to the police board and we, absolutely, I mean, we want that.
Okay, so you could do like the first Friday where it's closed
Absolutely.
and we have those kind of events?
Absolutely.
Okay,
That would be great.
all right,
You can
thank you.
spearhead it.
Hi. Mike Wilson, 300 Divinity Street. You mentioned there would be bus stops on the city road. I commend you for bringing buses into the development instead of just having them to continue to go by as they do now. Have the locations of those stops been determined, or is that still in the conceptual?
We've identified one bus stop location, which is
Right in this, where's your mark? On the curve.
right there.
Right in the center.
Okay.
And it's gonna have an indentation, if you've ever seen, my way I describe it is, if you've ever been to West Farms Mall where you see they have the bus that you pull in,
The lay-by, yes.
that's how that's gonna be.
I see. Well, that's central, and so most of the development would be walkable from the bus stop.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I just want to mention, I see in the audience, I'm probably going to miss someone, Council, Board of Finance, Planning, Zoning, and Parking Authority. If I missed your board, I apologize. But, it's great to see everybody interested. Monday night, 6:30, same room, we're going to be having the hospital presentation. Public will be also allowed to ask questions after the presentation, and a possible vote on the hospital contract Monday night as well. So things are happening, things are moving. As I always tell people, just because you don't see trucks or something on the Depot Square, Center Square, doesn't mean that things aren't happening. So thank you all and have a good night. Also, one more thing, the website is up there, so if you think of questions, shoot them on the website, and then any answers will be put back on the website. Thank you, good night.
Thank you.